What's worse, religion or YouTube's terrible subtitles? Let's find out. Today I'm going to jump back to Evidential University for a video where our intrepid apologist wants to claim that atheists are irrational, while not understanding any of the concepts he's talking about at all. But that's hardly a surprise, is it? So let's see if the Atheist Brigade is rational, and why being rational doesn't mean what he thinks it means.
According to Professor Greg Sheridan, it is more rational to believe in God than to believe that there is no God.
Okay, now as with past videos, I had to turn on YouTube subtitles because he's kind of hard to understand, and I want to say again that there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not holding it against him in any way, but YouTube subtitles suck. I have no idea how this comes across on my video, but going over to his channel, it says, according to Pastor Great Sir again, it is more rational to believe in God than to believe that there is no dog. I'm not making fun of him. I'm making fun of YouTube. The whole idea of these subtitles is supposed to be to make things easier to understand, not to make things a comedy routine. But anyhow, I have no idea who Professor Great Sir again might be, but he's just wrong. Rationality, by definition, is the quality of being based on or in accordance with reason or logic. And believing in something for which there's no evidence whatsoever is neither reasonable nor logical. So, you're off to a really bad start.
In fact, belief in God is much more rational than atheism.
In what way? Because all atheism says is that the religious, meaning you and your ilk, have completely failed in your job to back up your claims in any intellectual, objectively verifiable way. The failure here is yours, not ours. We are evaluating your claims the same way we would and should evaluate any claim made about the real world, and we find your claims to be entirely lacking in credibility. You ought to fix that.
The resting place of the mind, that is to say, the natural equilibrium of the mind, is belief.
I wouldn't say that. The resting place of the primitive mind might be belief, but for rational, intellectual, educated people, it is the evidence-based acceptance of propositions that have been demonstrated objectively to the point that rejecting these well-supported positions is irrational on its face. It's not to say that there aren't lots of people who buy into beliefs based on emotion, because there are, unfortunately, but those are not the minds of well-educated, critical thinking, highly intelligent people. What he's talking about here is catering to the lowest conceivable denominator. And that's not something to be proud of.
This is, in truth, a statement obvious, but it seems radical, shocking, as far as the Atheist Brigade is concerned.
I'm not denying that it happens. I'm saying it's pretty pathetic that it happens. It's like acknowledging that pedophiles exist. Of course they do. And there's something wrong with those people. I would never advocate that these people should be proud of what they do or what they're attracted to. I would tell them to seek help. And I do the same thing for the religious. They have a serious problem when it comes to their religious beliefs. They need to figure out what's wrong.
This is because the Atheist Brigade continues to influence the way people view religion in the 21st century.
Because religion is stupid. Not that the religious are stupid necessarily, although I've seen a lot of them that are, but because the idea of buying into any belief without examining it critically is wholly irrational. And that goes for anything, not just religion. Anyone who embraces a position emotionally, not caring for a second if it's actually true, not bothering to check it out rationally and demand objective evidence, those people are doing intelligence wrong. There is a serious problem here that they are not addressing.
And because of the activities, substantial and growing minority of the population continue to believe their doctrine.
It depends on where you are. In some countries in the West, the irreligious are now the majority and still growing. Atheists are one of the fastest growing segments of the population, and I'd argue that a sizable percentage of the supposedly religious population aren't really religious. They don't really believe this stuff. They just pretend to do so for social reasons. When we look at surveys of the religious, we find that most don't go to services very often. They don't read their holy books. In fact, they usually have no clue what the religion actually advocates. Atheists are far more educated on religion than the religious are. That's why they're atheists. That says to me that these people don't really believe, they don't really practice their religions. They do it so they can look good to their neighbors.
Let's make this clear. If a person subscribes to atheism, or if you believe in atheism, those people are in radical opposition to the vast majority of people on the planet.
Which doesn't really mean anything, does it? Of course, no one can subscribe to atheism because atheism isn't a belief system. It's a lack of a belief system. It's a rejection of claims made by the religious because those claims don't stand up to critical scrutiny. And if we're opposed to the majority of people on the planet, so what? That's just argumentum ad populum, a logical fallacy. Just because lots of people believe a thing doesn't make that thing so. There was a time when most people believed the earth was flat. Some idiots still do. They were all, and still are, wrong.
And the overwhelming majority of people who have ever lived in history.
The vast majority of people who have ever lived in history were simply wrong about most of the things they believed. People have been dumb. As science has advanced, people have gotten smarter, and we continue to grow in our knowledge because of science, not because of religion. Sorry, that's just a stupid idea.
That should tell you something.
Yeah, it tells me that religion, and most religions are ancient, you'll notice, but religion caters to the ignorant and uneducated who are desperately looking for emotionally comforting answers to questions they don't even understand.
Think about that again. I've read somewhere that some universities are even failing to teach the fundamental elements of Western civilization because it is partly based on the knowledge of God.
No, it's based on a belief about God. Knowledge requires some objectively demonstrable basis in fact. You can claim to have knowledge about unicorns, but that doesn't mean that you have knowledge about unicorns, because you can't prove that unicorns are real. You can't show how you came about this so-called knowledge. You can't explain how you tested it to find out if it was true. All claims about God are ultimately made up because there's no way you can get from here to there by relying entirely on evidence, reason, and intellect.
And that's because of the activities of the Atheist Brigade.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. A lot of it is because of the interest of the far regressive left, who would be happy to teach you all about Islam because it's a religion primarily practiced by non-whites, but they would refuse to allow any discussion of Christianity because it's largely a white religion, at least in the Western world. This is Identity Politics 101. And of course, I agree that we need to oppose it in all of its forms because it's destroying Western civilization. But that's not really the point of this video, is it?
Civilization, like most civilization of human nature, rests on the knowledge of God.
It doesn't matter how many times you repeat that, it's still wrong. It doesn't matter if you want to argue that most people who were influential in the rise of Western civilization were religious. So what? Most of them were white too. Does that make Western civilization rely on white people? Some idiots on the alt-right might think that, but not rational people.
Knowing and believing in God has always, my friends, has always been rational.
You have no idea what rational means, do you? Being rational does not mean being able to come up with some kind of ad hoc rationalization for the things that you believe. It's amazing how many people have no idea that these words are different. A rationalization is the action of attempting to explain or justify behavior or an attitude with logical reasons, even if these are not appropriate. It is not the ability to operate according to intellectual means and the laws of logic. It's no wonder that so many people on the religious side are so screwed up.
To know much more about God than merely that He exists requires faith.
Then it's not knowledge, is it? Because faith has no place in rationality or skeptical evaluation of the facts.
But most of our lives are living this way.
I don't know about you, but mine certainly isn't. In fact, I don't have the kind of blind quasi-religious faith that you're talking about at all in my life. I accept what is most rationally supported, and if I don't have an answer for a particular question, I say, I don't know, and I keep on looking. I will never throw up my hands and say, well, God must have done it because I can't come up with an answer. That's just stupid.
I have faith that my car will work tomorrow when I sit in.
Sorry, I've got absolutely nothing for that because I don't understand what he said. But assuming he's talking about something observable and understandable, no, you don't have faith. I don't have faith that the sun is going to rise tomorrow. I have experience with the sun rising over 18,000 times in my life. It has never failed to do so. I have an understanding of why the sun operates as it does. I know that it would take something unbelievably dramatic to stop it from doing so. And frankly, if that happened, nobody would be alive on this planet to see it anyhow. So no faith required, just intellect.
And when I put the ignition in, I have faith that the car is going to start and I'm going to use it on the highway.
Because you have direct, demonstrable experience with your car. You know that turning the key operates either electronic or mechanical means for starting your car. You can test this anytime you want. Let me know when you can do any of that for your religious beliefs.
And that's the way most of us live our life.
Yes, intellectually. Then you get to religion and other nonsensical beliefs, and people throw that way of operating right out the window. Because that's where we go from testable, objectively verifiable reality to, I want this to be true because it makes me feel good. Of course, the religious don't use the word faith in any kind of reliable, realistic, or consistent manner. It means whatever they want it to mean at the time. And that just proves the utter irrationality and intellectual bankruptcy of religion.
I'm therefore convinced that my faith in God is consistent with my rationality.
Yeah, I'm not convinced either, because you're totally oblivious to the way you're using the word and the way you're looking at the world. Because those things are absolutely not consistent.
And that means my faith itself is rational.
No, it means you're rationalizing your way to faith because you have an emotional attachment to the things that you believe for no good reason.
But faith is not of reason. Rather, faith is the basis of reason.
Not remotely close. But I've seen theists playing these word games before, and it never stands up to any kind of scrutiny. Lots of theists think that because they can come up with a reason that they believe, that their beliefs are therefore reasonable or rational, when that's not how this works. Because being rational is based on or in accordance with logic and reason. It is never reasonable or logical to believe in things that you can't demonstrate are real or even potentially so. Just because it makes you feel really good to believe it, that doesn't make that belief valid or worthwhile.
And almost of all, rational life is based on faith.
Empty claims are still empty, no matter how much you wish it was true.
Most often, faith is not a question of what you believe, but who you believe.
Well, I don't believe you, sorry, because you haven't demonstrated any expertise or knowledge of what you're talking about. And until you can do that, you've got nothing.
Thanks for watching. I am Rationality for Evidential University. Please subscribe to our channel, leave your comments below, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, the subtitles describe him as the congested, emotive, Evidential University. YouTube, you suck. But sure, you'll probably see me next time because taking apart your videos is kind of fun, if also a bit frustrating. Because the language barrier is bad enough, and I'm not blaming him for it, but the YouTube subtitles send me into a laughing fit more often than not. It's unintentional comedy. But watching videos like these just leaves me shaking my head. The things he says are very common, but also very ridiculous when you think about it. And I do think about it, but clearly, this guy doesn't. And that's clearly a problem because I'm thinking and he's feeling. I'm looking for evidence and he's looking for rationalization. I want to accept what is best defensible in the real world, and he wants to believe whatever makes him feel good. And he doesn't seem to think that's a problem. But that's why there are thousands and thousands and thousands of religions and religious sects, all of which are convinced that they're right and all the rest are wrong. Wars start that way. Religious intolerance and violence starts that way. But since none of these faithful fanatics are willing or capable of stepping back and examining the things they believe intellectually, the way that they evaluate everything else in their lives, the killing will go on because they firmly believe that their imaginary friend wants them to go and spill the blood of the heretics. And you wonder why I hate religion. I don't at all.